My father once told me that respect for the truth comes close to being the basis for all morality. Something cannot emerge from nothing, he said. That is profound thinking if you understand how unstable the truth can be. From Conversations with Muad'Dib by the Princess Irulan. I've always prided myself on seeing things the way they truly are, Thufir Hiwat said. That's the curse of being a mentat. You can't stop analyzing your data. The layered old face appeared composed in the pre-dawn dimness as he spoke. His sappho-stained lips were drawn into a straight line, with radial creases spreading upward. A robed man squatted silently on the sand across from Hiwat, apparently unmoved by the words. The two crouched beneath a rock overhang to look down on a wide, shallow sink. Dawn was spraying over the shattered outline of the cliffs across the basin, touching everything with pink. It was cold under the overhang, a dry and penetrating chill left over from the night. There had been a warm wind just before dawn, but now it was cold. Hiwat could hear teeth chattering behind him among the few troopers remaining in his force. The man squatting across from Hiwat was a Fremen who had come across the sink in the first slab of false dawn, scaring over the sand, blending into the dunes, his movements barely discernible. The Fremen extended a finger to the sand between them, drew a figure there. It looked like a bowl with an arrow spilling out of it. There are many Harkonnen patrols, he said. He lifted his finger, pointed upward across the cliffs that Hiwat and his men had descended. Hiwat nodded. Many patrols, yes. But still, he did not know what this Fremen wanted, and this rankled. Mentat training was supposed to give a man the power to see motives. This had been the worst night of Hiwat's life. He had been at Simpo, a garrison village, buffer outpost for the former capital city, Carthage. When the reports of attack began arriving. At first he thought, it's a raid. The Harkonnens are testing. But report followed report, faster and faster. 2 legions landed at Carthage. 5 legions, 50 brigades, attacking the Duke's main base at Erkine. A legion at Arsund. 2 battle groups at Splintered Rock. Then the reports became more detailed. There were Imperial Sardukar among the attackers, possibly 2 legions of them. And it became clear that the invaders knew precisely which weight of arms to send where. Precisely. Superb intelligence. How its shocked fury had mounted until it threatened the smooth functioning of his Bentak capabilities. The size of the attack struck his mind like a physical blow. Now, hiding beneath a bit of desert rock, he nodded to himself, pulled his torn and slashed tunic around him as though warding off the cold shadows. The size of the attack. He had always expected their enemy to hire an occasional lighter from the guild for probing raids. That was an ordinary enough gambit in this kind of house-to-house warfare. Lighters landed and took off on Arrakis regularly to transport the spice for House Atreides. Howat had taken precautions against random raids by false spice lighters. For a full attack, they expected no more than 10 brigades. But there were more than 2,000 ships down on Arrakis at the last count. Not just lighters, but frigates, scouts, monitors, crushers, troop carriers, dump boxes. More than 100 brigades, 10 legions. The entire spice income of Arrakis for 50 years might just cover the cost of such a venture. It might. I underestimated what the Baron was willing to spend in attacking us, Howat thought. I failed my Duke. Then there was the matter of the traitor. I will live long enough to see her strangled, he thought. I should have killed that Bene Gesserit witch when I had the chance. There was no doubt in his mind who had betrayed them. The Lady Jessica. She fitted all the facts available. Your man Gurney Hawk and part of his force are safe with our smuggler friends. The Fremen said, Good. So Gurney will get off this hell planet. We're not all gone. Howat glanced back at the huddle of his men. He had started the night just past with 300 of his finest. Of those, even 20 remained, and half of them were wounded. Some of them slept now, standing up, leaning against the rock, sprawled on the sand beneath the rock. Their last Thopter, the one they'd been using as a ground effect machine to carry their wounded, had given out just before dawn. They had cut it up with laser guns and hidden in the pieces. Then worked their way down into this hiding place at the edge of the basin. Howat had only a rough idea of their location, some 200 kilometers southeast of Arrakeen. The main travel ways between the Shield Wall, Siege communities were somewhere south of them. The Fremen across from Howat threw back his hood and stillsuit cap to reveal sandy hair and beard. The hair was combed straight back from a high, thin forehead. He had the unreadable, dull blue eyes of the spice diet. Beard and mustache were stained at one side of the mouth. His hair matted there by pressure of the looping catch tube from his nose plugs. The man removed his plugs, readjusted them. He rubbed a scar beside his nose. If you cross the sink here this night, the Fremen said, you must not use shields. There's a break in the wall. He turned on his heels, pointed south. There, and it's open sand down to the erg. Shield wounds will attract. He hesitated. A worm. They don't often come in here, but a shield will bring one every time. He said worm, Howard thought. He was going to say something else. What? And what does he want of us? Howard sighed. He could not recall ever before being this tired. It was a muscle weakness that energy pills were unable to ease. Those damnable Sardukar. With a self-accusing bitterness, he faced the thought of the soldier fanatics and the imperial treachery they represented. His own mental assessment of the data told him how little chance he had ever to present evidence of this treachery before the High Council of Landstrad, where justice might be done. Do you wish to go to the smugglers? The Fremen asked. Is it possible? The way is long. Fremen don't like to say no, I told him once. Howard said, you haven't yet told me whether your people can help my wounded. They are wounded. The same damned answer every time. We know they are wounded, Howard snapped. That's not the peace, friend, the Fremen cautioned. What do your wounded say? Are there those among them who can see the water need of your tribe? We haven't talked about water, Howard said. I can understand your reluctance, the Fremen said. They are your friends, your tribesmen. Do you have water? Not enough. The Fremen gestured to Howard's tunic, the skin exposed beneath it. You were caught in siege without your suits. You must make a war decision, friend. Can we hire your help? The Fremen shrugged. You have no water. He glanced at the group behind Howard. How many of your wounded would you spend? Howard fell silent, staring at the man. He could see as a mentat that their communication was out of phase. Word sounds were not being linked up here in the normal manner. I am Thufir Hiwat, he said. I can speak for my duke. I will make promissory commitment now for your help. I wish a limited form of help, preserving my force long enough only to kill a traitor who thinks herself beyond vengeance. You wish our sighing in a vendetta? The vendetta I'll handle myself. I wish to be freed of responsibility for my wounded, that I may get about it. The Fremen scowled. How can you be responsible for your wounded? They are their own responsibility. The water is at issue, Thufir Hiwat. Would you have me take that decision away from you? The man put a hand to a weapon concealed beneath his robe. Hiwat tensed, wondering, is there a betrayal here? What do you fear? The Fremen demanded. These people and their disconcerting directness. Hiwat spoke cautiously. There's a price on my head. Ah. The Fremen moved his hand from his weapon. You think we have the Byzantine corruption? You don't know us. The Harkonnens have not water enough to buy the smallest child among us. But they had the price of guild passage for more than 2,000 fighting ships, Hiwat thought. And the size of that price still staggered him. We both fight Harkonnens, Hiwat said. Should we not share the problems and ways of meeting the battle issue? We are sharing, the Fremen said. I have seen you fight Harkonnens. You are good. There have been times I'd appreciate your arm beside me. Say where my arm may help you, Hiwat said. Who knows? The Fremen asked. There are Harkonnen forces everywhere. But you still have not made the war decision or put it to your wounded. I must be cautious, Hiwat told himself. There's a thing here that's not understood, he said. Will you show me your way, the Arrakeen way? Stranger thinking, the Fremen said, and there was a sneer in his tone. He pointed to the northwest across the cliff top. We watched you come across the sand last night. He lowered his arm. You keep your force on the slip face of the dunes. Bad. You have no still suits, no water. You will not last long. The ways of Arrakis don't come easily, Hiwat said. Truth, but we've killed our Harkonnens. What do you do with your own wounded? Hiwat demanded. Does the man not know when he's worth saving? The Fremen asked. Your wounded know you have no water. He tilted his head, looking sideways up at Hiwat. There is clearly a time for war decision. Both wounded and unwounded must look to the tribe's future. The tribe's future. Hiwat thought. The tribe of Atreides. There is sense in that. He forced himself to the question he had been avoiding. Have you word of my Duke or his son? Unreadable blue eyes stared upward into Alex. Word? Their fate. Howat snapped. Fate is the same for everyone, the Fremen said. Your Duke, it is said, has met his fate. As to Lisan al-Gaib, his son, that is in Liet's hands. Liet has not said. I knew the answer without asking, Howat thought. He glanced back at his men. They were all awake now. They had heard. They were staring out across the sand, the realization in their expressions. There was no returning to Kaladin for them. And now Arrakis was lost. Howat turned back to the Fremen. Have you heard of Duncan Idaho? He was in the great house when the shield went down. The Fremen said, This I've heard, no more. She dropped the shield and let the Harkonnen land the Harkonnens, he thought. I was the one who sat with my back to the door. How could she do this when it meant turning also against her own son? But who knows if Bene Gesserit how a Bene Gesserit witch thinks, if you can call it thinking. How it tried to swallow in a dry throat. When will you hear about the boy? We know little of what happens in Narkeen, the Fremen said. He shrugged. Who knows? You have ways of finding out? Perhaps. The Fremen rubbed at the scar beside his nose. Tell me, Thufir Hiwat. Do you have knowledge of the big weapons the Harkonnens used? The artillery. Hiwat thought barely. Who could have guessed they'd use artillery in this day of shields? You refer to the artillery they used to trap our people in the caves, he said. I have theoretical knowledge of such explosive weapons. Any man who retreats into a cave which has only one opening deserves to die, the Fremen said. Why do you ask about these weapons? Liet wishes it. Is that what he wants from us? Howat wondered. He said, Did you come here seeking information about the big guns? Liet wished to see one of the weapons for himself. Then you should just go take one, Howat sneered. Yes, the Fremen said. We took one. We have it hidden where Stilgar can study it for Liet, and where Liet can see it for himself if he wishes. But I doubt he'll want to. The weapon is not a very good one. Poor design for Arrakis. You took one? Howat asked. It was a good fight, the Fremen said. We lost only 2 men and spilled the water from more than 100 of theirs. There was Sardukar at every gun, Howat thought. This desert madman speaks casually of losing only 2 men against Sardukar. We would not have lost the two except for those others fighting beside the Harkonnens. The Fremen said. Some of those are good fighters. One of Hiwat's men limped forward, looked down at the squatting Fremen. Are you talking about Sardukar? He's talking about Sardukar. Hiwat said. Sardukar. The Fremen said, and there appeared to be glee in his voice. Ah, so that's what they are. This was a good night indeed. Sardukar. Which legion? Do you know? We don't know. Hiwat said. Sardukar, the Fremen mused. Yet they wear Harkonnen clothing. Is that not strange? The Emperor does not wish it known he fights against a great house. Hiwat said. But you know they are Sardukar. Who am I? Hiwat asked barely. You are Thufir Hiwat, the man said matter-of-factly. Well, we would have learned it in time. We sent 3 of them captive to be questioned by Leo's men. Hiwat's aide spoke slowly, disbelief in every word. You captured Sardukar? Only 3 of them. The Fremen said. They fought well. If only we had time to link up with these Fremen. Hiwat thought. He was a sour lament in his mind. If only we could have trained them and armed them. Great Mother. What a fighting force we have had. Perhaps he delayed because of worry over the Lisan al-Gaib. The Fremen said. If he truly is the Lisan al-Gaib, harm cannot touch him. Do not spend thoughts on a matter which has not been proved. I serve the Lisan al-Gaib, Hiwat said. His welfare is my concern. I have pledged myself to this. You are pledged to his water? Hiwat glanced at his aide, who was still staring at the Fremen, returned his attention to the squatting figure. To his water, yes. You wish to return to Arrakeen? To the place of his water? Yes, the place of his water. Why did you not say at first what it was water? It was a water matter. The Fremen stood up, seated his nose plugs firmly. Hiwat motioned with his head for his aide to return to the others. With a tired shrug, the man obeyed. Hiwat heard a low-voiced conversation arise among the men. The Fremen said, There is always a way to water. Behind Hiwat, a man cursed. Hiwat's aide called, Thufir, Archie just died. The Fremen put a fist to his ear. The bond of water, it's a sign. He stared at Hiwat. We have a place nearby for accepting the water. Shall I call my men? The aide returned to Hiwat's side, said, Thufir, a couple of the men left wives in Arrakeen. Well, you know how it is at a time like this. The Fremen still held his fist to his ear. Is it a bond of water, Thufir Hiwat? He demanded. Howat's mind was racing. He sensed now the direction of the Fremen's words, but feared the reaction of the tired men under the rock overhang when they understood it. The bond of water, Hawat said. Let our tribes be joined, the Fremen said. And he lowered his fist. As though it were the signal, 4 men slid and dropped down from the rocks above them. They darted back under the overhang, rolled the dead man in a loose robe, lifted him, and began running with him along the cliff wall to the right. Spurts of dust lifted around their running feet. It was over before Hawat's tired men could gather their wits. The group, with the body hanging like a sack in its unfolding robe, was gone around a turn in the cliff. One of Hawat's men shouted, "Where are they going with Arky? They're taking him to bury him," Hawat said. "Fremen don't bury their dead," the man barked. Don't you try any tricks on us, Thufir. We know what they do. Arky was one of paradise. We're sure for a man who died in the service of Lisan al-Gaib, the Fremen said. If it is Lisan al-Gaib you serve, as you have said, why raise warning cries? The memory of one who died in this fashion will live as long as the memory of the man endures. But Hawat's men advanced, angry looks on their faces. One hand captured a laser gun. He started to draw it. "Stop right where you are," Hawat barked. He fought down the sick fatigue that gripped his muscles. These people respect our dead. Customs differ, but the meaning's the same. They're going to render Arky down for his water, the man of the laser gun snarled. Is it that your men wish to attend the ceremony? The Fremen asked. He doesn't even see the problem, Howat thought. The naivete of the Fremen was frightening. They're concerned for a respected comrade, Howat said. They will treat your comrade with the same reverence we treat our own. The Fremen said, This is a bond of water. We know the rights. A man's flesh is his own. The water belongs to the tribe. Howat spoke quickly as the man with the laser gun advanced another step. Will you now help our wounded? One does not question the bond, the Fremen said. We will do for you what a tribe does for its own. First, we must get all of you suited and see to the necessities. The man with the laser gun hesitated. Howat said, Are we buying help with Arky's water? Not buying, Howat said. We've joined these people. Customs differ. One of his men muttered. Howat began to relax. And they'll help us get to Harkonnen? We will kill Harkonnens, the Fremen said. He grinned. And Sardukar. He stepped backward, cupped his hands beside his ears, and tipped his head back listening. Presently, he lowered his hands, said, "An aircraft comes. Conceal yourselves beneath the rock and remain motionless." At a gesture from Hiwat, his men obeyed. The Fremen took Hiwat's arm, pressed him back with the others. "We will fight in the time of fighting," the man said. He reached beneath his robes, brought out a small cage, lifted a creature from it. Hiwat recognized a tiny bat. The bat turned its head, and Hiwat saw its blue within blue eyes. The Fremen stroked the bat, soothing it, crooning to it. He bent over the animal's head, allowed a drop of saliva to fall from his tongue into the bat's upturned mouth. The bat stretched its wings, but remained on the Fremen's open hand. The man took a tiny tube, held it beside the bat's head, and shattered into the tube. Then, lifting the creature high, he threw it upward. The bat swooped away beside the cliff and was lost to sight. The Fremen folded the cage, thrust it beneath his robe. Again, he bent his head, listening. "They quarter the high country," he said. "One wonders who they seek up there." "It's known that we retreated in this direction," Hiwat said. "One should never presume one is the sole object of a hunt." The Fremen said, "Watch the other side of the basin. You will see a thing." Time passed. Some of Hiwat's men stirred, whispering. "Remain silent as frightened animals," the Fremen hissed. Hiwat discerned movement near the opposite cliff, fleeing blurs of tan on tan. "My little friend carried his message," the Fremen said. "He is a good messenger, day or night. I'll be unhappy to lose that one." The movement across the stink faded away. On the entire 4 to 5 kilometer expanse of sand, nothing remained but the growing pressure of the day's heat. Blurred columns of rising air. "Be most silent now," the Fremen whispered. A file of flying figures emerged from a break in the opposite cliff, headed directly across the sink. To Hiwat, they appeared to be Fremen, but a curiously inept band. He counted 6 men making heavy going of it over the dunes. A flock of ornithopter wings sounded and high to the right behind Hiwat's group. The craft came over the cliff wall above them, and a traitor with Harkonnen battle colors splashed on it. The Thopter swooped toward the men crossing the sink. The group there stopped on Dune crest, waved. The Thopter circled once over them in a tight curve, came back for a stride, landing in front of the Fremen. 5 men swarmed from the Thopter, and Hiwat saw the dust-repellent shimmering of shields and their motions, the hard competence of Sardukar. They use their stupid shields, the Fremen said, and beside Hiwat hissed. He glanced toward the open south wall of the sink. They are Sardukar, Hiwat whispered. Good. The Sardukar approached the waiting group of Fremen in an enclosing half circle. Sun glinted on blades, held ready. The Fremen stood in a compact group, apparently indifferent. Abruptly, the sand around the two groups spread Fremen. They were at the ornithopter, then in it. When the two groups had met at the dune crest, a dust cloud partly obscured violent motion. Presently, dust settled. Only Fremen remained standing. They left only 3 men in their Thopter. The Fremen sighed. Hiwat said, That was fortunate. I don't believe we had to damage the craft in taking it. Behind Hiwat, one of his men whispered, Those were Sardukar. Did you notice how well they fought? The Fremen asked. Hiwat took a deep breath. He smelled the burned dust around him, felt the heat, the dryness. In a voice to match that dryness, he said, Yes, they fought well indeed. The captured Thopter took off with a lurching flap of wings, angled upward to the south in a steep wing-tuck climb. So these Fremen can handle Thopters too, Hiwat thought. On the distant dune, a Fremen waved a square of green cloth once, twice. More come. The Fremen beside Hiwat barked, Be ready. I'd hoped to have us away without more inconvenience. Inconvenience, Hiwat thought. He saw 2 more Thopters swooping from high in the west onto an area of sand, suddenly devoid of visible Fremen. Only 8 splotches of blue. The bodies of the Sardukar in Harkonnen uniforms remained at the scene of violence. Another Thopter glided in over the cliff wall above Hiwat. He drew in a sharp breath as he saw it. A big troop carrier. It flew with a slow, spread wing heaviness of a full load. Like a giant bird coming to its nest. In the distance, the purple finger of a laser gun beam flicked from one of the diving Thopters. It laced across the sand, raising a sharp trail of dust. The cowards. The Fremen eyed Hiwat rasped. The troop carrier sailed toward the patch of blue-clad bodies. Its wings crept out to full reach. Began the cupping action of a quick stop. Howard's attention was caught by a flash of sun on metal to the south. A Thufir plummeting there in a power dive, wings folded flat against its sides. It's just a golden flare against the dark silvered gray of the sky. It plunged like an arrow toward the troop carrier, which was unshielded because of the laser activity around it. Straight into the carrier, the diving Thufir plunged. A flaming roar shook the basin. Rocks tumbled from the cliff walls all around. A geyser of red-orange shot up skywards from the sand where the carrier and his companion Thufir's had been. Everything there caught in the flame. It was the Fremen who took off in that captured Thufir, Howard thought. He deliberately sacrificed himself to get that carrier. Great Mother, what are these Fremen? A reasonable exchange, said the Fremen beside Howard. There must have been 300 men in that carrier. Now we must see to their water and make plans to get another aircraft. He started to step out of their rock-shadowed concealment. A rain of blue uniforms came over the cliff wall in front of him, falling in low suspensors lowness. In the flashing instant, Howard had time to see that they were Sardukar, hard faces set in battle frenzy, that they were unshielded, and each carried a knife in one hand, a stunner in the other. A thrown knife caught Howard's Fremen companion in the throat, hurling him backward, twisting face down. Howard had only time to draw his own knife before blackness of a stern projectile felled him.